All right, thank you so much for coming to my panel. I know it's a little later than is my time, but when you're dealt the time slot, you fulfill your obligations. And so, I welcome you to After the Fact Live, talking about Dragon Quest. We're going way back to Season 2, the season that I got started in, the season that I found so endearing. I will say, I think 2 and 5 are the seasons that have done the most and pushed the boundaries for the show. And while, we're always a little unsure of change, I think it's a good thing to explore. That's it. That's it. This comes from a magical time when Twilight did not have wings. What is this devilry?
What is this blasphemy?
What is this nostalgia trip? Oh. Well, thankfully Twilight is more than wings. In fact, that's going to be a topic sort of related to this video. But before, I have to close to the mic here? Or the speakers. But before we get into talking about the Dragon Quest, I want to hit you all with a different topic. Modern art!
Yes! I like the art.
It is. This is thread. This is textiles. This is a display that is currently in the Denver Art Museum. But for folks here in San Francisco, folks who have some time after the convention, there's a similar display at the San Francisco Museum of Art, and it is worth seeing. You hear humming?
It's
okay.
feedback on my phone.
Okay, we're good. Don't worry. But yes, this is a display that you can also find at the San Francisco Art Museum, but it is individual to each place. Done by a Gabriel Dahl. This is number 36. He's been doing this all over the country. While I was there with my friend, we were checking things out, I came across the description he wrote for this, and I was very confused. Plexus number 36. My work is centered in exploration of textiles, and aims to examine the complicated construction of gender and identity in my native Mexico. It also attempts to subvert my notions of masculinity and machismo prevalent in the present day. And then he goes on to say 65 miles of thread used to create this beautiful array.
65 miles!
This is it, 65 miles.
The high front down.
It is. The last time I had that much fiber, I couldn't go outside the toilet for days. Yes, I took an expression of beautiful art and added a toilet joke.
That's great. There's a lot of problems over. Yeah, but you didn't do the first 2 seconds.
I said to my friend, I was so confused. What did this say about gender and masculinity? I didn't get it. And I felt like if, you see this description, it's like, my work goes to confront gender norms and challenge concepts of male masculinity. It's pretty. Well, what's not in the picture is an assistant just to the left. And he told me that, one, it does combat gender stereotypes and challenges masculinity because in Mexico, and I did not know this, textile work is not considered work for men. It's work for women. You're unmanly if you make this. I didn't get, I appreciate the guy saying it. I can't say I totally agree with this assertion because if I have to have someone on hand to tell me that, I don't know if the work really conveys that spirit. At least not to someone without context. But I will say, guys are not typically expected to stand and look at something beautiful, this array of colors that just intertwine. And I think it's fantastic. That's why I recommend to people who can go see it at the San Francisco Art Museum, do so. But I thought, when I looked at this, I didn't think of gender stereotypes or challenging masculinity. I thought, pretty colors. But that is a theme in my life. It's come up a lot over the years. I was going to get a car, and I told my friend about some of the options that were me. He said, "Oh, don't buy that car. That's for girls." What? I was like, "Does someone walk around and peek under the cars just to check?" I found that highly inappropriate. I said. And there's only one time I've ever seen a vehicle that was specifically designed to be used by a female, and it was in The Simpsons. It's the Canyonero, you got the step stool to get in, and there's no cigarette lighter, but lipstick. Yeah, there's another stereotype. Thanks, The Simpsons. And so that, and I know this seems unrelated to Pony, but we're going to move into that gradually. Again. It is, thank you. And I just wonder why is it considered unmanly to just, one, work with something so beautiful, create something so marvelous, and then to stand in appreciation of it. I was confused. But we're talking about ponies, and well, there's a great deal of color in this, but maybe not as tranquil. It is the day of the Great Dragon Migration, where seemingly all the dragons in Equestria travel to one site in the Badlands. And of course, there's one pony who's really not into seeing the migration. All her friends are, but we know how Fluttershy feels about dragons.
Or anything.
Yep.
Yes, she can talk him down, but she's not going to go looking for trouble. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, this is worth 50 restraining orders. But this comes after putting your hoof down. Fluttershy has learned more about assertiveness. She has learned to stand up for herself and to politely convey her intentions. And she does not want to go. So, of course, she's going to say this to her friends.
I said...
Okay, there's putting your foot down, and this is putting your hoof down on someone's spine.
Well, stomach.
Her stomach is now concave.
Her ribcage might be broken.
There were many dark humor comics that came after this.
Yes.
None of them are happy, but my favorite pony in the show is done for the episode. And it's not even the title screen. But she made a deep impression.
She might have ruptured a lung.
I wonder if Rainbow Dash still has like a hoof imprint there. Shows it to her Wonderbolt's buddies. Yeah, I got this in the Great Bar Fight in '72.
Don't give me ideas, I'm drawing that.
Now, okay, so we saw Fluttershy, we saw Twilight, we saw Rainbow about to lose her lunch from the last week. Where are Pinky and Applejack? Okay, first and foremost, I appreciate that neck power. They are gonna be sore tomorrow. But I see. You got the Earth ponies digging the trench. I actually don't know what that says. But I know that this is adorable, I might say. Twilight just scoping things out, because here's the thing: when you go to look at dragons, you really don't want to be an obvious target. We want to keep on the down low. We're going to talk about that because there are some things going on. Now, I like seeing Fluttershy be assertive. Yes, assertive. That's the term we're going to use. Okay. Show of hands, who here thinks that this picture is not adorable?
Wait, no.
I say
I almost got you.
I love it.
Okay, for the record, there are no hands raised, except for one guy who tried to trick. Now, as much as I love this, I'm actually less fan of Pinkie Pie using the binoculars wrong. Because here's the thing about Pinkie's humor. She sees the world in different ways than us. She interprets it through a unique filter. But she's not dumb. That's one of the key things that has come across, especially in more recent seasons. She's not dumb. So when she can't use binoculars right, I don't think that's very funny. I think you're actually doing the character a very small disservice. But again, they're not going to have a lot of time.
I just took that as a reference to Little Mermaid.
Oh.
With the seagull and turning the binocular wrong.
But that seagull's not the brightest bulb. Sure as I can. Yeah, but I did it because I thought it was funny, or I might have ingested some bad mushrooms. I don't know. Dude, let me make the world smaller.
Like Miss Trencher said, Pinkie is not a puppy.
Hey,
Hello.
she is a puppy.
I did that once, and my brother did that once. I did that once because I wanted to. My brother actually did it because he didn't know how to do it. He went and did it, and I was like, that's not how you do it. And he was like, yes, it is. And I'm like, oh, you're supposed to make it bigger, not smaller.
Well, we've all been there, but the thing is, Pinkie's not even questioning it. She just keeps doing it. She doesn't say, hey, this is wrong. But, if I think they're getting Pinkie Pie a little wrong.
Well, what do you think? Am I the toast of the trench or what?
The toast of the trench, that one that does sound marvelous, but here's the thing. Rarity is also very smart. She is a practical designer. She knows when things are needed. Everyone's decked out in camo outfits, and she shows up looking like the inside of a disco. And I just find that Rarity, above all, is going to be kind of flanderized in this episode. They're going to amp up the girlishness of her.
Flanderization.
To add, and to add humor, but honestly, it comes across a little forced to me. It comes across saying you don't know Rarity. Now, if I knew Rarity, I bet she'd take some greens, maybe some flowers, arrange it in a very nice pattern, maybe something along the side. Oh my goodness, I'm giving fashion advice to a fictional horse. This show, hey, I look fabulous, eh? Thank you.
Hey.
Oh, okay. We heard it. It's on camera. I am best OC. Sorry, everybody. You can stop creating OCs now. You really shouldn't encourage me.
But we enjoy it so much because of the results.
Oh dear.
And to be fair, there's no shame in second place. It always means something good.
Wow, Rainbow really takes it on the chin this episode.
For too long.
She's getting knocked about. By the way, am I blocking anyone from the screen? Just a little bit, just a skosh. Let's see if I can back it up here and not disappear from our good audience on the interwebs. Better?
Yep.
All right, excellent. But yes, I love dragons. Ever since I was a little kid, they are just the coolest thing in my mind. They come to mean a lot. And I love, even though really, when you look at it, there's only two body designs here. You got our friend with, these are important. You've got our friend with the sloping jaw and the return of the dragon featured in Dragon Shy with a sharper angle. But look at all the colors that you can witness just in one shot. Someone, as their job, added this color diversity. And it makes it so much more entertaining. I don't care if it's two designs. The palette of colors is great. All I see there is there's actually one ice-like dragon, which I find interesting, that just now jumped out at me. And so, how are the ponies reacting to this?
And super duper scary! Yeah, us dragons are definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Cookies, I don't care what you wear. Although I will say this, best camo outfit in my eyes, Jack.
Yes.
It is perhaps second only to Pirate Jack in my area. But Spike is acting positive and confident. We can't have that. I wonder who will burst his bubble.
Yeah, right, Spike. That's one of the scariest aprons I've ever seen. What's wrong with wearing an apron?
Good question. Badoosh. What is... sorry, Code Geass, this isn't a Code Geass panel. Lelouch is not here.
Oh.
Actually, that's what I call him because he was such a jerk.
Cleanliness is magic.
Lelouch is a psycho. An awesome psycho, but still a psycho. But anyway, yes, you can always count on Rainbow Dash to say just the wrong thing. Always the wrong thing. And, it's not that I actively dislike Rainbow Dash, but it's probably the major thing that drops her down on my list, is that she speaks first, regrets later. Let's never forget that she actually regrets when she does something wrong. But it's always hard to, you make it hard to love you, Rainbow. Sometimes you make it really hard to love you. Oh, well, yes, that's the funny thing. The voice actor for one of my lesser favorite ponies also voices my second favorite pony. And she's not going to be in the episode very much. I'm really struggling here. Oh, sorry. But the bombardment continues.
That's one tough stain. One tough stain against one lame dragon.
Thank you, Rainbow. I'm so glad that you're being so supportive of your friend.
I got that thing kind of ridiculed before.
I think many of us have. I mean, come on. You think I walk out in public like this and people are going to be like, oh, that's one swanky guy. Don't look at his eyes. Don't make eye contact. Just pretend he's not there. So Spike is getting bombarded on all sides here.
I don't act like other dragons?
Oh, not even close.
But why would you want to, Spike?
Well, let's see here. Flight, fire breath, knocking things over. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to be a dragon? And I'll be honest, while I was working on this, I was like, maybe I should go from hippogriff to dragon. Then I realized I have to redraw my OC, and it's like, okay.
Here but not be happy.
But here's the thing that's coming through on all this. One, none of these ponies are actually asking, here's Spike comparing himself to dragons and feeling like he doesn't measure up. And they're confirming it. They're saying, oh, Spike, you don't measure up to dragons. You're not a dragon. And they think it's totally fine. Why would you want to be? Don't you think he should get to decide that? Don't you think he should decide who he wants to be?
Yeah.
And so they're disrespecting him. I hear.
Mr. Enter actually had an opinion on this.
Oh, I appreciate it, but I can't stop to talk about other reviewers' opinions on this. I'm going to put my opinion out there and let the audience decide. But here's the thing: you're saying he doesn't measure up, and now this video has gotten this episode has gotten two big criticisms. One is the flanderization of some of the characters and the general unpleasantness. Two is that some people view this as a comment on race, that Spike he's rejecting his heritage as a dragon to be a part of the pony race from which he was raised. And we're going to see clips that might support this interpretation and this criticism, but I'm going to add a different one. Much like the artwork I showed earlier, or looking at a car, people mention the behavior that's expected of manly men doing manly things. And how if you fail to measure up with that somehow makes you an insult. If you're not a man, but you're a woman, oh, is that an insult? No, it's just, yeah, they usually fumble at that part. So I'm going to present this episode as a commentary on, well, what does it really mean to be a guy? And it's kind of funny to do this through a show aimed at young women, because this actually touches on some points. I was talking with a friend about this a while back, and he recommended a book.
Cute? Dragons aren't supposed to be cute, right?
Oh, sweetie, you are turning the most delightful shade of red. It is most becoming.
Yeah, again, they're dismissing his identity issues or his insecurity, and they're just sort of like pandering to him. And so I talked to my friend. This was at the very onset when I was starting to do Brony reviews. And like many, I sort of like, wow, I'm a guy talking about a show with little girls. I'm sure a lot of folks are going to consider this weird. You kind of go through this self-aware phase until you realize it's really just smoke and mirrors. And I'll talk more about that, but a friend recommended a book to me, The Way of Men. And with a cover like that, you know it's going to be happy and hugs all around. And testosterone. Apparently the way of men is not to have a sandwich. And this is by a fellow named Jack Donovan. And I knew, now I'll be honest, I read this, and for a while, this book was kind of seductive in its ideas. I started to agree with a lot of what it had to say. Not that it made me say, oh, I'm going to stop watching a show with little girls, or that I find entertaining, but I understand this. Believe me, we hit a decline. And really, my first warning sign was the very first sentence. I present this to you without ego. I am instantly suspicious. Because if someone has to tell you what they're doing, or their intention, they're probably not living up to it. I've had lots of people say, oh, a really funny guy, and they never crack a smile. A person who says, I'm really friendly, and they turn out to be the biggest jerks in the world. If someone tells you I present this to you without ego, do not believe them. But anyway, Jack Donovan argues that the way of the men is the way of the gang. And I don't mean like, West Side Story, like we're not going to come up to people doing a little snap. I know, why not is a good question, because that sounds awesome. I gotta say, I think America would be more fun if we had that entrance. Plus, the police would get a warning, hark, I hear snapping, it's a gang war. We'd also be more fun if police actually said hark.
Yeah, hark.
But not gang, that says, but basically a core group of guys, a small circle of trusted allies in a harsh wilderness. He likes to romanticize the dark ages of mankind, when we were small, isolated, divided, and much more aggressive. In his eyes, that was our natural norm. He argues that masculinity is about what men want from other men. It is not about what women want. That might be a warning sign too. But he's arguing that men are judged by how well they relate to other men. And to do that by expressing 4 tactical virtues. These virtues, as he describes them, they're not virtues in the sense of morality or doing the right thing. They are virtues in that people respect them regardless, and they are amoral. He makes a constant argument for amorality when analyzing these virtues. Again, we're going to get into that. But the first tactical virtue is strength. And this is something I think we all admire, and it's something I see in dragons all the time. It's part of why I just thrill at seeing them in fantasy stories, and in artworks, in video games. Although this one's taking sweet time on the commute to work. I guess when you're powerful, you don't have to beat the clock. But dragons across fiction, they can be the heroes, they can be the heroines, they can be the villains, the dangers, a natural threat, an intended threat, and they stand up to anything. Oh, he's having a bad day. They are basically one of the symbols of the greatest power. And they show it by basically steamrolling everything. Everything they face just crumbles in their path. And let's be honest, have we all not stood in awe at some point of a powerful being that's just walking through, even if it was on its way to harm someone? And although I feel weird that I'm only thinking about marshmallows right now. And a little bit of Mortal Kombat. Toasty!
One particular dragon that Spike can get along very well is Spyro.
Spyro, the little dragon who conquered huge amounts of darkness. Oh, but then you got dragons like Smog. And he is just walking through town. A night out on the town means a night of a year of heavy repairs. And this is what strength represents. Now, it's a fictional creature, but we all kind of stand in awe of it. Show of hands, who here just thought those dragons looked awesome?
Yes.
Okay, now there are all the hands.
I hate to admit it, but yeah, it was awesome.
Well, that's because this is the idea of the tactical virtues. They appeal to us on a certain level, even if a lot of the dragons I just showed you were enemies. Smog in particular was stomping through a town because he was in a bad mood, and also probably ticked off that he was in a third movie. What do you mean we're splitting to a third? There's not enough content.
Yes.
I wish I could get Benedict Cumberbatch to say that. So, as Mr. Donovan argues it, strength, in the strictest physical sense, is the muscular ability to exert pressure. We're going to file that under duh. He phrases it really well, but I don't think everyone's mind is blown by this idea. But it's the strength that dragons represent. However, he goes on to say, strength is the ability to exert one's will over oneself, over nature, and over other people. And at first, we find this really appealing. We've rooted for the bad guys. We watched Scarface, and we thought he was awesome.
What's Scarface?
A very violent gangster movie. Who here saw Rogue One? Best movie. Okay, there are some people who haven't seen it, so I can't give spoilers, but I will say there is a Darth Vader scene that will be sung, parodied, and celebrated for decades to come.
Last scene.
It was!
Last scene.
One of his best.
And it was, and believe me, but we're in awe of the Dark Lord of the Sith. We're in awe of the bad guy. And yet we're celebrating this. We're like, that is so cool! Oh, he's going after the good guys. It's still cool! But here's my first criticism of Mr. Donovan's perspective. Over nature. I don't care how strong you are. I got to witness Dusty Cat's arm wrestling contest, and both those guys were mighty. I mean, they could bench press me and toss me off the stage. I respect them, but I don't think either one of them could outpunch a hurricane, or just walk over an avalanche. Heck, even the tiniest germ can be a danger to us. So our strength is a little more subjective than I think we often want to admit. Sometimes you can't even get past plot convenience.
I am death.
Black Arrow.
Oh, right in the... Oh dear.
Yes, I should have ended how that would have been a much shorter movie series. But then again, sometimes plot convenience works in your favor. Legolas. No one would consider him a manly man by the look of him. He's fair, he's got long hair, but he defeats all the guys. He defeats everybody in that movie and then pulls a Super Mario. A little platform jumping. But what does all this amount to? Well, Spike doesn't feel like he's measuring up to dragons, and that leads him to a tough question. Who am I? What is he supposed to be? Why is he different from all the other dragons? And why does he feel like they don't belong? And it haunts him all through the evening.
What am I? Where am I from? Who am I supposed to be?
I don't know. For the last time, Spike, you were given to me as an egg. I don't know who found you or where they found you.
That's really not something you leave unattended. Now, first off, oh, Twilight, I'm so sorry his existential crisis is keeping you from your shut-eye. Maybe you could have reined in Rainbow Dash a little? No? Okay, well then. We're pulling an all-night study session. That'll be a lesson to you. But there are a couple things here. Earlier, the girls were not really treating Spike with a lot of respect. Felt like they were taking him for granted. Now we find out that Twilight was given a dragon as a whole, and she never questioned where it came from. She never considered what this might mean. She never wondered if Mom and Dad might want him back one day, and would they come calling. The setup for this first act just conveys that they take Spike for granted, and in doing so, they themselves look a little less likable. This first act is not really doing the main six any favors.
It's hard to believe, but ponies know next to nothing about dragons. Apparently, they're too rare and too scary to try to talk to or study.
That is a good point. They know about their migration pattern because the ponies knew exactly where to be to see the dragons. I'm wondering where everyone else in Ponyville was. As far as I can tell, they should all be hiding in bomb shelters, hoping the dragons don't burn down their houses. Or baking a cake. Don't bake something delicious. The dragons will smell it and divert. Oh, to the pinky cake. But that is a good idea. Actually, I wonder if the cakes have in on that. They gotta know about the hole in their foundation.
They make me pay my money, guys.
So, I kind of wonder this. Sorry to interrupt your review, because I keep wondering, if what's what I said, if they're too rare and too scary to observe, then how come the ponies were to take Spike's egg and try to use them for Spike's entrance exam? That's what I keep wondering.
An excellent question, but we never addressed that. Well, so let's see. Spike's going through more of a crisis, and now he finds out that the folks who've been looking after him didn't even ask questions about his own identity. He's having a bad time, a very bad time. And so he makes a decision.
I'm going on a quest of self-discovery. I need to learn what it means to be a dragon. And the only way I'm going to do that is to join the dragon migration.
What?
Basically, Spike decides that he is going to go and join the Great Dragon Migration, despite the fact that he's up against much bigger dragons, much more aggressive beings, and he is still a baby dragon. Now, but to her credit, when everyone else tries to dissuade her, Twilight accepts that this is something he needs to do. She respects that. This is where they start to come back. This is where the ponies are. We've gone through the tough first act, and now they're becoming more likable as they respect and encourage him. But this gets to our second tactical virtue, as described by Mr. Donovan.
I was expecting I could go the distance from Hercules.
Do you not know how old I am? No! Oh, but let's talk about courage. But we're not going to talk about Mr. Donovan's interpretation first. We're going to go with a little bit more classical. This is from Aristotle. And man, if I can even pronounce this correctly, it'll be a good night. The Nicomachean Ethics. The courageous man withstands fears from those things which it is necessary to fear and withstand, on account of the right reason, and how and when it is necessary to fear and withstand them, and likewise in the case of being bold. Little less complicated way of saying this. You know the old saying that fear is not the absence of, courage is not the absence of fear, but its mastery? Brave men recognize danger. They accept when they're up against a dangerous foe. and yet they press forward. Now, it's important to note Aristotle's choice on account of the right reasons. Because as Aristotle argues it, you can do the courageous thing for all the wrong reasons and therefore not really be courageous. Daffy Duck proved this.
4,998, 4,999, 5,000. Whoops.
Hey, that's mine. That's money. That's mine. Mine. All of mine. And what's mine is mine. And nobody's gonna get it. Like I said, I'm a coward, but I'm a greedy little coward.
That's right. I'm a greedy little coward. Okay. Think about that. Daffy Duck is one of the most cowardly characters in all of fiction. He's sort of charming in that way. He's so unashamedly cowardly. But in rare cases, his cowardice, his greed overrides his cowardice. One's ego can override one's fear. One's determination to prove themselves can make them do something reckless and stupid. This is not genuine courage to Aristotle. It is simply putting a vice above another vice.
He's more honest than Donald Duck.
He is. So when he argues that you're doing something on account of the right reason, he's saying you recognize danger, but you are doing something usually for the sake of others. That the truest form of courage is in the defense of others. And that, if by his rationale, the soldier who goes to war and fights in a battle is the greatest measurement of courage. Because he is fighting for the sake of others, putting his life on the line with full knowledge of the danger. And that's, I would agree with that. That's something worth respecting, but I want to touch more on the concept of courage.
We're following him, right? Of course.
Arguably, we have to ask the question, despite being courageous, he wants to prove himself, he wants to know about himself, that's great, but he is not acknowledging danger. He's not recognizing his own frailty in the face of these larger and more aggressive dragons. Yet the ponies, with full knowledge of what they're facing and with full acceptance of the danger, go because they want to keep him safe. They go for the right reasons. Alright, now, as I said, this was Aristotle's take, but here comes a guy many centuries later to offer his own take. In The Way of Men, Mr. Donovan argues that courage is the will to risk harm in order to benefit oneself or others. In its most basic amoral, always the key word with this fellow, amoral form, courage is a willingness or passionate desire to fight or hold ground at any cost. In its most developed civilized and moral courage is considered a decisive willingness to risk harm to ensure the success or survival of a group or another person. Donovan argues that there's nothing wrong or cowardly about wanting the best for yourself. That if you're willing to push and fight for it, that's the essence of courage. Now, he shares the respect for the military. But I'm left with a question. I've been hit with two very different definitions. One that argues solely for other people, and one that argues that it's more about, are you willing to take a risk? So who am I to believe? Shall I believe the ancient thinker who has shaped much of modern-day philosophy and critical thinking? Or shall I reflect on the guy who could probably bench press both of us? I really can't believe he tattooed honor onto his abs. Let's go to the extra thing. Well, here's the thing. I don't really agree with either of them. Here's the thing. To them, the greatest show of courage is battle. The physical risking of oneself to go forth and risk death. Usually for others, but sometimes it's just to achieve what you want. And both these men argue that courage is measurable. The greater the risk, the greater the courage needed to overcome it. Let's go back to Star Wars analogies. Empire Strikes Back. The walkers versus the rebels in the trenches. Little men against these giant metal behemoths. Who do you think is displaying the greater courage?
The rebels.
Exactly so. They are facing the greater risk, whereas the Imperials piloting the walker are able to sit in nice cockpits, probably with a little more central heating, and use these machines. They are not feeling true courage right now. They're in battle. They're not as brave. And I agree with that. But one of the things about being a brony is that I've witnessed courage on a daily basis, and I will not accept the idea that this courage is invalid next to the display of physical prowess. Case in point, I was at Everfree Northwest, moderating a panel with voice actors, and that may sound glamorous, but really, once the voice actors get going, you are superfluous. I was adjusting the microphone for people so they could ask questions. This one young man came up. He was in a wheelchair, and I moved to adjust the microphone for him. and he looked down, and he waved me off. I was like, "You sure?" Waved me off. Okay. This young man hoisted himself upright in his seat for 5 minutes and just held it and carried on a conversation with these people. And when he was done, he thanked them politely, he lowered back down, wheeled off, and it was one of the most impressive and courageous things I've seen. He wasn't asking for special treatment. He wasn't asking for recognition of his courage. He was just being his best self. Now, he cannot go into war. I'm very thankful that a lot of people don't have to go into war. But to say that that courage is irrelevant or just doesn't measure up against people in battle, I think that's a disservice. I think we show more courage now overcoming ourselves, and we recognize that. And so, as much as I think both these men present interesting ideas, I cannot totally agree with them. I respect the courage and strength of soldiers, but I also respect the quiet strength that people show in every day. Now, I also respect that beard. Oh, wait, it's clip-on. Then again, I cannot diss him. This is a clip-on bow tie. So Spike has finally made it to the Great Dragon Migration Grounds, and I'm going to actually get a video clip that works. This is our introduction to the teenage dragons, and none of them are ever named. We will learn that this fellow is Gargle, but really that was only learned after the show when scripts were released. He's never once named, which I found fascinating. But here's two important things to know. As far as I know, every dragon in this scene is male. And more than that, they're older than Spike. They are in the teenage phase. I'm sorry to say this, but before My Little Pony got to it, I found the quintessential male teenager on another Flash cartoon.
Girls are confusing!
Yeah, that about sums it up. That was HomestarRunner.com. It's still up. It hasn't updated in a good while, but it is a hilarious series.
Still going.
Still good.
Rarely.
Usually like once a year, I update.
Yeah.
That was from the video Imaginary Friend. But here's Spike finally getting to meet dragons that are a little bit more his size, certainly more than those behemoths that are flying above. And so he tries to make...
You look more like a peewee to me.
Oh, aren't they nice? Yeah. More than a peewee. What a great introduction. But this gets us to the topic where he's facing laughter and ridicule from what he views as his peers. So everybody's dumping on Spike. This was the thing that drove me nuts for several seasons. Spike's been a punching bag for a long time. First season, I felt like he kind of deserved it because he was always laughing at other people's misfortune. But now he's actually he's been much kinder, and yet he still gets abuse. It's not as funny. Yes, that is a common trope term.
Hashtag down.
Oh, well, you see, I live in Ponyville, and I'm...
Ponyville? That explains it! I knew there was something vaguely ponyish about you. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were part pony.
Part pony. Now, there's a line that warrants some analysis. This is where I think people are kind of right to say that there's a theme of race running through this. Part pony. Now we're arguing that he is being defined by genetics. You're so lame you must be part pony. Well, aren't you a jerk? Yeah. But here's the thing. I also view this as an example of toxic masculinity. This is the idea that masculine is something to mean violence, aggression, how you appear, and even how you make use of women but don't respect them. And Spike is getting a little bit of this. They are ridiculing him for his size, for his posture, for how he behaves. And basically they're relying on the classic tactic of humiliation to pressure him to conform. Be like us, or we're going to laugh at you. And when you're especially young and vulnerable, you're still figuring yourself out, this is one of the most toxic things you can do to someone. This is going to poison folks for life. And that's why I think it's good that people are drawing attention to it. There's also, and this is one thing that's always confused me, a contempt for signs of emotion or understanding. It's perceived as weakness. When really, I find it funny because Aristotle just said, the truly courageous do things for other people. Now, how can you do something for another person without an emotional connection? Maybe if they pay you, but that's about it. And then Like Daffy Duck, is your greed overriding your fear? Are you doing it for the right reason? Are you truly courageous?
I got all of the above throughout middle school and high school.
I hear you. And a little maybe.
Prove it.
Well, how?
By acting like one. Who's up for a little belching contest?
Oh, okay, why are those two perking up? It's like a belching contest? I never know what's going through these two heads, but they are just so interested in a belching contest. But really, this brings us to the third of our tactical virtues, mastery. Mastery is right now it looks like they're just doing a silly competition. But in a sense, they're demonstrating how skilled they are with, well, what comes to them naturally. With fire breath, with a test of strength, with a tail wrestling contest, they're basically competing for a hierarchy. This is what Donovan argues, that the way of men is all about the gang. It's about creating a hierarchy. You get 3 guys together, maybe even 2, and they will start competing to see where they fall. Who is the strongest, who is the smartest, who is the most skillful. And once you know that, then you have your hierarchy, and the group settles a little more, competing for status. That is his argument, and the dragons seem to reflect this, as they basically show how good they are at things. Spike, unfortunately, fails repeatedly. But then we get into his definition. There's several, believe me, this is where things really start to go downhill for me. Mastery is man's desire and ability to cultivate and demonstrate proficiency and expertise in techniques that aid in the exertion of will over himself, over nature, over women, and over other men. Oh, let's break this down. Yes. I've already said over nature. We are more vulnerable than we like to admit. Tragedy, misfortune, random chance can strike. The smallest germ can bring us low. We are not, and we cannot just flex our way through that power. So you can, honestly, I feel that mastery is the illusion we tell ourselves. Over women. I can bench press, that means I get to boss you around. This line in particular is probably the one that raises the most alarm to me. He's basically saying that if you're good at something, then you must be obeyed. It doesn't work like that. Over other men. This is the thing, and we're going to get into this when we talk about the final tactical virtue as he describes it. But other men might see your mastery. That doesn't mean they're going to honor or respect it. It doesn't mean they're going to give it to you. So again, this whole mastery thing starts to fall apart because it's giving more power to an individual than any of us really can enjoy. And that got to me so much I felt the need to take my own crack at a redefinition. In my eyes, mastery is the desire and ability to cultivate and demonstrate proficiency and expertise through techniques that aid in the adaptation to elements both expected and unforeseen within daily life. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you actually understood what it said, because I'm struggling a little. But to put it simply, there's one thing you control in life. There's one thing that you can have total mastery upon, and that's yourself. However you face a challenge, you will have skills to fall back upon. You will have things that you've cultivated to make yourself better at adapting, but you are never truly the master of the situation. But if you can master yourself, a lot of people will think you're totally in charge and cool in the moment. I will say this, today's episode, no spoilers, but there is an interpretation of Princess Celestia that I adore, because it showed a side to her that enhances everything we've seen up until now.
Yeah.
But Spike doesn't do so great, except...
I challenge Spike to a tail wrestle.
Who's this weirdo?
I think he's Crackle's cousin.
Oh, that would explain it.
I freaking love that dragon. It is so atypical, it is so the opposite of what you expect, and yet it just looks awesome. Now, I've heard, when I featured Crackle in a comic, and I referred to it as a he, people corrected me, that is a she. And I don't know if it's like the eyelashes?
That's the eyelashes.
That's the only thing I can think of that really says this, but I didn't understand, but hey, I'm going with it. Doesn't matter. Awesome Dragon is awesome.
Yes.
But thanks to the assistance of the ponies, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's see here. Strength, 3 ponies carrying that costume across the land and walking into a volcano. Nice. Courage, we've been over that. Mastery, not the greatest costume, but Rarity was under pressure. I think that's pretty awesome right there. And with a really awesome beat behind it. So, but the mastery is on full display from the ponies. And again, I'm going to talk about this with honest view. But Spike does earn some respect.
No, dude, that was awesome. No pony could live through a belly flop like that. You're one tough little dragon. Whoa.
And this leads to the final tactical virtue in Donovan's eyes, honor.
Spike, by belly flopping so hard, you have proven yourself worthy. I hereby dub you Rookie Dragon, and will now perform the initiation ritual.
Honor. Now this, again, Donovan stresses amoral virtues. That honor is not strictly related to simple virtue by other people. It's not necessarily doing the right thing, it's doing what the group likes. And according to Donovan, honor is a man's reputation for strength, courage, and mastery within the context of an honored group compromised primarily of other men. Again, Donovan doesn't want to deal with women. Good luck with that. But here's the thing. So basically, if you do something the group approves of, you are honored. And there's two forms of this. What Spike is enjoying is horizontal honor. It is shared between the peers. You have met the bare minimum requirements for what they consider to be appropriate. And so you are regarded as one of the group. This is where toxic masculinity sets in. You don't meet those traits, you are jeered at and dishonored, discredited. But we also have vertical honor. That is where we celebrate heroes. This is where we celebrate people who go above and beyond the call, who become examples. They've achieved more than others, and so we look up to them. Verticality. Or in Spike's case, as his horizontal honor, you walk into the tails of your friends, and if one of them does let one rip, you're in trouble. But as we say, these are supposed to be amoral honors. So having earned the dragon's respect, Spike is now brought along on a raid. This is where we hit the real trouble.
Spiky Wikey is going to stay with these awful dragons forever?
Yeah, he's part of the group now, and we're about to, it's gonna be bad, but right now it actually looks pretty good. He's accepted by the group, is receiving respect. Garble's actually coming up kind of likable. He was mean-spirited at the start and very disrespectful, but so were the main six. I mean, Rarity is saying, oh, this is awful, he's gonna stay with these awful dragons. Why are they awful? They seem to be treated pretty well. In fact, in that last scene, Garble was actually kind of acting like a big brother. Rough, but accepting. So this is one of the problems with the episode for me. It's telling me what to think. It's not showing me why this is bad Spikes with these dragons yet. Right now it looks pretty awesome. So why they're freaking out, I think the boys just have to admit they really lost their friend by not being good friends themselves. So the raid is to attack a nest of phoenixes. And if there's one thing I learned from Philomena, it's that phoenixes are natural trolls. Very natural trolls. Because when the eggs hatch, Garble and company are pretty pathetic. Very pathetic. It is amazing how badly they botched that. But all is not lost.
Oh, yes! Nice going, Spike.
That's vertical honor right there. He accomplished more than the other three could. He held on to an egg. Wow, that is some impressive base. Dare I say it's the ace of base. But Spike has never seen vertical honor. Look at Garble. He actually looks like really proud of Spike. Until this is where the amoral argument for the tactical virtues falls apart.
Well, what are you waiting for, Spike? Smash it!
Smash the egg?
Yeah!
Yeah! Throw it on the ground as hard as you can!
Yeah! Smash it! Smash it! Smash it! Smash it! Smash it!
Now, what would Spike do? Well, if you ask Mr. Donovan, he would probably say smash the egg. Because this guy has spent the whole book, and this is where it fell apart for me. The group defines you. The group judges your worth as a person. And so, to gain the horizontal honor, to increase his vertical honor, Spike should smash the egg. Well, what does Spike say?
like I was. And I'm not gonna let you hurt it.
And this is where I think Spike surpasses even Jack Donovan's view of what makes a real man. Because this is important. There is, in my opinion, a fifth virtue that Donovan doesn't want to acknowledge because doing the right thing gets in the way of proving he's a man. That's the level of insecurity that I found running through his script.
It's the classic case of violence is not strength, virtue is not weakness.
Exactly. But it also falls under a term. Edite. Edite. Which, when I did a search on Google to try and find the true meaning of this word, I found out that it means a peak. What? This made reading up on this very confusing. Very confusing. But honestly, it's actually a good choice of words because it's really about reaching your peak self, the highest development of oneself. A union of physical, intellectual, and ethical to become the best person you can be. That's why the Army's slogan for a good while was be all you can be. Now Donovan has asserted that these tactical virtues are unique to men. Whenever someone would say, well, what about women? What about three characters who are able to create a dragon costume and go out and protect their friend, even risk their own exposure? Well, he said, well, yeah, women can do it, but it's not expected of them. Baloney. Your kids think that's the strongest word I can use. Look, here's the thing. I don't accept the idea that strength, honor, courage, and mastery are unique to men. If anything, I think we expect just as much of women. I will accept the argument that on biological terms, men usually produce more testosterone, they can be more physically strong. But women show strength in other ways. They show courage in equal ways. Exactly. Through the mind, through the spirit, through directing people to be their best selves. Now, I do agree that we often admire these traits, even in villains. If they have a strong sense of honor, or if they have a mastery of skills, we're like, that is really cool. But the villains always lack arete. They never challenge themselves to be better. We as people are more than just the definition of our physical strength. We are more than our IQ. We are development of all these things, a union of them. And so the best way to be a good person is to develop all those into a strong whole, to reach the peak, arete. Now Donovan says that being good at being a man is not the same as being a good man. Well, here's my thing. If you can be a good man, being good at being a man takes care of itself.
No pony's gonna lay a claw on him!
That's right. Fighting's not really my thing. I'm more into fashion. But I'll rip you to pieces if you touch one scale on his cute little head!
I would watch it. I would pay money.
Now that's my question. Does Rarity secretly learn karate?
I would not put it past her. There's been some debate about her history, and I'd love to know more. But we've got less than 5 minutes, so forgive me, I need to power through here.
Now, if you don't back off, you'll see what us ponies do when confronted by a huge group of jerky dragons.
So we have 3 dragons on one side, 3 ponies on the other, Spike in the middle, and he rejects dragons in their entirety. A lot of people are upset because this means he's rejecting his dragon heritage. It's basically forsaking the idea of dragon as a race for favor of ponies, as if they are the one true way. I'm concerned that Spike is rejecting the concept of masculinity as represented by the dragons. That there is value in strength, in courage, in mastery and honor, but only if you develop them. And the ponies give him the development of a person, of someone who cares for others, who is strong for others. Right now, he is living up to everything, the tactical virtues and arete, just by standing up for a defenseless egg. Of course, he also is incredibly practical, because they run away. And I've lost a clip again. Counterpoint. Oh, there you go. But yes, look how the mighty fall again. I think we've discovered the dragon's one weakness, trees, which is why Fluttershy owns that dragon. She wants to be a tree, she's mastering over the dragon, because she likes trees. I have found it, yes, Illuminati confirmed. And that's Spike accepts that not only does he consider himself part of the ponies, he considers them part of his family. This is a adorable shot. forgive the main six for their less than stellar opening.
Dear Princess Celestia, seeing the Great Dragon Migration made me wonder what it meant to be a dragon. But now I realize that who I am is not the same as what I am. I may have been born a dragon, but Equestria and my pony friends have taught me how to be kind, loyal, and true. I'm proud to call Ponyville my home, and to have my pony friends as my family.
I do feel bad that he had to keep his picture in. But here's my ultimate criticism for Dragon Quest. Rather than celebrating the best of what dragons have to offer and how Spike enhances that with what he's learned from Pony, blending two worlds, it's rejection of a world. It's pushing the dragons away with no recognition of that they have something to offer, and saying ponies are the only thing you need. We're better through diversity. We're better through accepting different traits. And I'll agree with the criticism that in trying to expand our definitions of how a person is perceived, we can leave people feeling a little adrift to their own identity. And that's why I think it's good to have a discussion about the tactical virtues. It's good to have a talk about what really makes a man, but also to recognize what virtues there lie in women and how they share in those strengths. But we kind of shy away from it. And I would very much love if we had a more honest discussion about what it really means to be a good person, also a good individual.
Hey, welcome to the family, Pee-wee. Stick with me. I've got plenty to teach you about being a pony.
I miss Pee-wee.
He was never seen again. Now here's the thing. For our closing thoughts, because we're about to wrap up, I will be happy to talk and answer questions, but we'll need to move into the hallway. We learned later that Spike didn't do a very good job with Pee-wee, and so Pee-wee had to be returned to his parents off screen, which one might argue makes this character absolutely balanced. One can argue that, but I'm actually going to counter that.
Yeah!
We never see this Phoenix again, but it's alive because Spike stood up for it. Spike added something to the world by showing courage and strength and honor and mastery of himself. The world is enhanced because Spike did something good. And I find that very, very often creating something is always a way to make the world a better place. And so I will argue that Pee-wee is not entirely pointless. He's a testament to what Spike achieved. And guys, I thank you so much for coming to my panel. Thank you.